In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at input verification. And input verification is really important because when we get input from the user and we're expecting it to be a particular kind of input, like we're expecting a number or something, the user could put in something that would cause an entire program to crash. We don't want it to crash. Instead, what we want is to verify that they are inputting what we're expecting, and if they don't, we're going to prompt them to enter it again. For this, we're going to make use of our loops. So, for this example, we're going to imagine a scenario where we are trying to get a number from the user. Okay? And we're going to say we even want it in a particular range. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a while loop. And I'm not going to use a while true loop. I'm going to give it a condition to show you that it can be done without a while true and using break. So I'm going to say var, I'm going to call it, I'll just call it lowercase number. And we're going to say that it's equal to null. What null is it's saying that this actually has no values assigned to it at all. Okay? That's what that means. It's like not even being 0 or anything, it's just nothing. And we're going to say while our variable number here is equal to null. So we're going to keep on looping while this is null. First thing we're going to do is we're going to ask for that input. So we're going to get our number, a variable, and we're going to set it equal to, I'm going to use this number function in order to cast their input into a number right away. And I'm going to say enter a number between 1 and 10. I got to do a prompt here too. Prompt, enter a number between 1 and 10. There we go. Need another bracket. Perfect. So prompt gets an input from the user. It then passes that on. It's currently a string. And then we use the number function in order to cast it into a number. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do some checks on this variable to make sure it is what we think it is. So if I'm going to do a check, that sounds like an if statement. And so I'm going to use an if statement. And I'm going to say is NaN. What that means is not a number. Okay? And this, I'm going to pass this into it, the number variable that we've now got in the user input. We're going to ask if what we got is not a number, what should we do? And this will happen whenever we try to turn something into a number that is not a number. For example, if I put in the letter H and I try to turn the letter H into a number, the value that's going to get assigned to my variable here is not a number, or NaN. So I'm going to check, is this not a number? Which means they entered something that's not a number. And so what I should do is give an error message saying, hey, you entered in something that's not a number. Please try again. So that's exactly what I do. Console log. I'm going to say that's not a number. Please try again. The second thing I need to do is I need to set my number variable back to null because we need this to happen again. We need to ask them for another number. So I need to reset my variable back to null so that it will trigger the loop to go again. The next thing I need to check is I wanted a number between 1 and 10. So if we get past this, we know it's at least a number. We don't know it's a number between 1 and 10. So that's what we're going to check for next. So I'm going to say else if, and then I'm going to check, is it a number between 1 and 10? But when you're checking, you don't check for if it's a good value. Rather, what you do is you check if it is a bad value. And the reason why you do that is because if you're checking for bad values, then you can give them a relevant error message. But if you're just checking if it's a good value and you find it's not a good value, you don't know why it's not a good value. So you can't give them a feedback in order to tell them, hey, this is not a number between 1 and 10 versus this is not a number, period. Okay, so that's the reason why we do it this way. That way we can give them relevant error messages depending on the kind of mistake that they made. And so I'm going to check, is the number less than 1, because that's one kind of error, or is the number greater than 10? Okay? If either of these are true, that means that it's not a number between 1 and 10, and that is another kind of problem, because I'm expecting a number between 1 and 10. So, once again, I'm going to give an error message saying, that's not a number between 1 and 10. Please try again. And once again, I'm going to set our number variable to null in order to trigger our loop again. And that is pretty much it. I'm going to check for 2 errors. I'm going to check first, is it a number at all? And second, is it a number that's in the correct range? And if I find an error, I give an error message, I reset my variable, and because I reset the variable, it will continue the loop. But if I don't find any errors, then number is a good value. I have not reset it, so it's not equal to null anymore, and it will continue on. And just for the sake of it, I'm going to say console.log number, and that'll just tell me what the number is that I entered. So let's try this out. So I'm going to hit run. It asked me to enter a number between 1 and 10. Let's try this check first. I'm going to say hello. That's not a number. Please try again. So it realized, hey, I didn't enter in a number. Please try again. And it got reset to null, starting the loop over again. Ask me again. Alright, well I can't put in letters. I'm going to try to fool it again. I'm going to enter a number that's not between 1 and 10. I'm going to enter 11. Now it says, that's not a number between 1 and 10. Please try again. So now it's this that caught the issue. And that was an error. It went back to the beginning. And now it's asking me for another input. Let's try -1 maybe. Still not a number between 1 and 10, but it is a number. It recognizes that it is a number, but it's not a number between 1 and 10. Still gives me an error. Alright, well it looks like it can't find any way to get around it. So let's take ball. And now I did enter a number between 1 and 10. There's no errors that were caught. So the loop stopped and it printed out the number that I entered. And that is the basics of input verification. Using a while loop to prompt the user to enter input over and over again, checking the input every time for different errors that we are anticipating, and giving a relevant error message. And if we don't find any errors, we then let the loop stop and the program can continue on, knowing that you are dealing with, in fact, a number between 1 and 10 and not something unexpected. Alright, so we're going to stop there, and I will be expecting you guys to be using this kind of input verification whenever you're getting input from the users from now on. Okay? Alright.